What's up guys, today I'm here with an expert artist and an absolute veteran. With over 20 years in the industry, he's been one of the artistic minds behind massive hits like Saints Row, legendary Game of Heroes, Plants vs Zombies, and so many more, including the upcoming Stormforge and his own unique game that he's developing for Steam. In this video, he's going to share all of these secrets. There's a huge amount of value packed into this one, so make sure to stay until the end. Stephan Royer, how are you, man?
Dude, yeah, Gorka, awesome to be on with you, man. It's been cool to connect. Yeah, man, I'm happy to share my personal workflow and help anybody who's starting out making characters. There's really just a handful of tools I use in each bit of software, just enough to, get the characters alive and in the game. I'd love to share my own personal process, how I use, AI, concept art in Photoshop, different modeling suites like Blender and ZBrush or Substance Painter. I kind of bounce around to a bunch of different software using little bits of each one, just enough to get the characters made. There's another thing I was going to tell you. I know AI can be really intimidating and it can feel like artists are being replaced, but my message to artists would be that AI is just a tool the artists need to find a way to use,
Yeah, that's what I've been saying for some time now. Like, you need to use AI. It's a tool to help you in your way of making things rather than this robot that does all the work for you. So it's kind of implementing it into your workflow with your unique touch.
Yeah, and I'll show you how I use AI. Sometimes I lean more on the AI. Sometimes it's more just using it as a guide or like a reference.
Okay, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, you would do it?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll kind of give a quick preview of a character I made in like less than 24 hours. It was a shark for my upcoming Steam game. And the different software I'll use is, AI tools, which I'll go over, and then I'll take those into Photoshop and kind of kit bash and paint over those, kick them back to AI maybe. And then I'll use that as a reference. Or some AI can actually use your painting or your image to spit out an example model. And then I'll pull that model in and paint over it, or I'll use that model as a guide in 3D software and just kind of use it as a reference, to kind of play a little bit.
Man, that model's looking really, really good. And that's in 24 hours, you said it, right?
Yeah, less than 24 hours is under some pressure to get this character in. So it's literally just a bunch of simple shapes kind of pushed and pulled using a few simple techniques that I'll show you. So the first thing I'll usually do is literally probably just grab some reference, like, okay, we're making a hammerhead shark. Everybody does this, right? Pull up some Google reference just to get an idea of like, where are the colors and shapes and general look of the realistic one. Even though I'm going to stylize it, I want to understand like the forms and the shapes a little bit. And then I'd probably either take an image, paint over it a little bit, or do a prompt. And, you type your prompt in up here, hammerhead shark in a, handcrafted with fabric. Once you get your prompt typed up, then you just hit generate, and then it would spit out all these options. They're kind of all over the place, right? So you can get as detailed as you need to in your description so that the AI will do a better job of giving you examples. A couple down here that I really like. I'm like, okay, this is really close.
Oh, this one is good.
This is really good. Even though it messes up sometimes, right? Like here's like an eyeball or something on the side of it.
That's true.
For my purpose, this is great. Like I can take this and paint over it and touch it up and put it back to AI if I wanted. It's like really close to the target, right?
Yeah, you're using AI to have a clearer image in your mind to help you get the final model. And,
yeah, exactly.
Some years ago, we didn't have this. So this is really amazing for any new artist out there, because also all of these softwares are free out there that anyone can use. And if not, they're super cheap also. And of course, they're only used to get a concept art initially, but they can be really helpful, as you can see.
Yeah, and I actually jumped from, 3 different AI tools that seem to be pretty good for my needs. So Ideogram is one, Leonardo's another. Here you can look at, I was developing a fisherman, like a Captain Ahab for my project. So it's doing different Muppet characters and like the whale.
Amazing.
So some AI, you can like grab the image, throw it into Photoshop, and then actually mirror your screen in real time. Like Kriya, you can do real-time AI generation. Come down here, choose your screen window. And then not only can you type in a prompt, a Muppet Hammerhead shark character, but then you can dial the AI to do most of the work, or you can have it actually copy your drawing. See my drawing?
Wow, man, that is amazing.
And then you can kind of paint real time. Like if I want his mouth to be a little bit wider, and the AI will just real time. Like, look at that. It just updates it.
In real time.
It's incredible.
It's painting over. Wow.
Well, bigger teeth, right?
This is amazing.
Longer fins.
Whoa.
Want this fin to be a little taller, like really big. Look at that. Just like,
Look at that. Wow. So you're painting over a concept image with an AI enhancer in real time so you can see how this will look. But you're sketching real quick, which is really impressive. Can be really useful for a lot of people. Wow. Look at the eyeballs.
it's fun just to play. That's what AI is so good at, is you can just
Yeah.
dream together, with the AI. I mean, that's basically how I'll just get a rough idea and then pull it into Photoshop and go from there. So this is my concept. All the concept artists out there are just going to be groaning, but like, this is the concept I used to take in and model my shark, because it's like good enough for me. I get a rough idea of the forms, I get the texture, the general shape, and also the personality. And then I had a couple other, these are like Beanie Babies or like stuffed animals or something. That I found on the web that I posted in, just to remind me, to curve some of the head and how they're kind of dealing with some of the scenes and making it look like a plush animal with kind of pinched sewn areas and details like that. So those are just other references I would use just to keep in mind. I guess it depends on, if you're in a studio, they might want to show off the concept art. So you'd probably want to clean it up and make it look really professional.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just making my own games or projects. Like, I just need enough information to then get to the next step.
Yeah, to actually get to work. Yeah.
This guy was roughed in half a day or something like that, and then tightened up and finished over the course of out of like 10 hours or something like that. Just like slowly noodling, kind of play and seeing what shapes and things I'd wanted. This shark literally is just like primitive shapes. Like, for anybody who's intimidated with character modeling. And this is what they'll say if you do like drawing, is just start with primitive shapes. Like, if you're going to draw an arm, just draw like a rectangle, right? And then like a circle for the hand, and like block in your forms first. That's all I'm doing here. Like, this eyeball is literally just a sphere. The head here is a cylinder that then I just push and pull and squash around. So it's all primitive shapes, just pushed and pulled and masked. I mean, this shark was made with pretty much like 4 techniques in ZBrush.
Okay.
For anyone starting out in ZBrush, it's really intimidating. There's a lot here. I don't use like 90% of it,
Yeah, and it's important what you just mentioned, that you don't have to fully know 100% the whole software in order to make use of it, right? The same goes with Unreal or any software out there, really.
Yeah, just learn enough to do what you need to do. Just as an example, if we want to make like the hammerhead's head there, here's just a simple cylinder. There's really just like 4 tools that I use in ZBrush to do the majority of my modeling. And the number one, I wish ZBrush and tutorials and stuff would celebrate this more. It's like the magic button, and it's this gear right here. This is where all the magic happens if you're trying to push and pull and block in models. So look at this. You go to first you're in the move tool, right, of your object, and then you hit the gear. It gives you all these amazing things, like
all those tools.
And it's kind of on like a wireframe, so you can like taper really easily. Right? Like, remember my shark had kind of a taper in the front. Let me kind of move it out so you can see. See, look at that. I'm already like blocking in a little bit.
Man, yeah, that's literally the shape already.
ZBrush is kind of like working with clay. So I'm not worried about topology, how the lines are flowing and everything. I'm literally just like pushing and like I'm holding clay and I'm just smudging and jamming shapes and forms together. So another tool that I use is under geometry. And there's another magic button called zremesher. And you can say the poly count you want on this cylinder. Let's say I want it to be 2,000 poly, so I'll put in a 2, as if this counts in the thousands.
Right.
Adaptive means like, hey, ZBrush, pay attention to where there's edges and then maybe put a few more lines in there so it'll keep the integrity of it.
Oh, I see. Right, so it doesn't lose that edges.
But I'll do detect edges and then run a zremesher, and then you can't really see it easily, but let me back up. So there's how it was before, and then here's a zremesher, and it actually makes the topology flow a little bit better. Let's do like 5,000. We'll do it again. See?
Wow.
And then under deformation, you can go and you can kind of inflate and you can soften, smooth, and kind of smooth it out. See, and
Right.
look at that. Like we're already
Little sliders. See, that's cool.
getting close to that hammerhead form. Okay, here's the third one that I use all the time. Up in the upper left, when you're modeling, you can do live boolean. Just click that on. And this is magical. This is why I would use ZBrush over Blender, because of its tools. So let's say I want to make an eye socket, right, for my shark. So I'm going to pull up a sphere and I'm going to put it in the area I want to carve out the head. And there's this little area you click on your mesh you want to modify. And then it makes this kind of arrow arm that kind of reaches over top of it, below it. And then you say, I want the model below it to take away.
Oh, so like, yeah, like removing from a shape, right?
Right. So now I got a great eye socket. Well, I'm just going to duplicate this and maybe I'll shrink it a little bit so you can kind of see. So all I did was I duplicated the sphere that's cutting out the shape for the eyeball. Now I have an eye. I literally took this process through on the whole shark, just pushing and pulling and cutting shapes and modifying them with that gear button to get these forms. Like these little stitches are just a cylinder that I smoothed out and then bent it. I've sort of, here's kind of a bonus tool. For these little gills, and you can do a lot with masking. So if you hold a command on Mac, I think it might be control on Windows, you can kind of paint on your model and it creates a mask that says, don't move these polys. So you can paint with a brush, you can take away by holding Alt. It's literally just like in Photoshop, just painting.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to make these gills and I want to actually push the gills in. So holding command, or I think it's control on Windows, you just click and it inverts it. And then back to my move tool, which I will center on the mesh that's selected with this marker. And then I can just push it in.
You split it in. Wow.
And actually what I'd probably do is go to masking and just blur it a little bit. So it's not quite such a harsh. And that's exactly how I did that. So again, it's just like pushing clay around,
Yeah. It's definitely very useful for, a lot of people. Like you can just draw and then create a mask around that drawing, right? And, use it to modify the main model, which is really, really fast.
And that's also how I did these seams here. I just sort of painted on here a mask and then I just pushed it in a little bit and then smoothed it out. So let's say you're happy with your mesh. You're not worried about polygons. It's really high res. You've got all the nice details that you want. Here, I'd probably put all these pieces in a folder and call that high, and then duplicate that folder and then start to put all the high res stuff into a folder, duplicate that, and then use that remesher tool that I was talking about earlier to then lower the poly count on them so then we can use it for a game. So here's my high res shark. If I just duplicate my high res shark, come to remesher. Let's say I want it to be 6,000 polygons, keep any creases, detect any edges, and then run it through remesher. And that'll clean up all the topology. It'll try and keep the forms that I had in the high res, but then simplify the geometry.
Right. Well, that's so good and very important because a lot of people, when they're starting to make models, they just put the max amount of polygons everywhere, right? So then for a game, of course, doesn't run so well. But wow, that did a great job, actually.
I don't know if it came through, but we could do a real quick side by side, actually.
Wow, this can be also used for LODs, right?
It's great for LODs. And you can see it kind of messed up the teeth a little bit. I probably wouldn't run those through the remesher. I would just make a simple triangle primitive shape.
Right.
Duplicate it versus trying to have software. So after I have both my high res and low res and ZBrush, then I'll bring it into Blender. So in Blender, there's just a few things that I'll do to prepare the character for the game. One, which I think most artists hate this, is UV unwrapping, where you have to kind of flatten out the polygons so you can paint on them and create textures. But what's amazing is in Blender, you can go to edit your mesh, and these little red marks are seams. I can literally just choose the lines that I want and then come up here to mark seam. And that will tell Blender's smart UV unwrapping where it wants to cut the mesh to then fold it out.
Oh, that's a good tool.
So you can trace exactly where you want to hide your seams or where you want those to show up. When you first come in, your mesh is going to be unwrapped in a mess like this. But once you go in and cut your seams, and then you come up to UV unwrap, it'll intelligently know where you put your seams to then flatten that out in a cleaner way.
Right. Yeah, because you marked the seams before.
Right, because you mark the seams. And the other tools, now these are more magic button, amazing. If you go average island scale, that'll make sure that every polygon is like roughly the same pixel density on your texture. So if you had a checkerboard pattern and the eyes are really small checkerboard pattern or texture, and then the bodies are really big one, it's blurry. Average island scale will make sure they're all the same size. So your pixels will be
I see.
same across the whole mesh. That it's amazing how they're manually sizing it. The other magic button is pack islands. So this one is what saves the day. This is what saves you so much time. You can mess with these settings to dial them to your liking, and then hit pack, and it'll try and intelligently lay them out for you that you can then paint textures on. Okay, so once you have your character in Blender, it's UV unwrapped, your textures are ready to go. Then you can throw it in a Substance Painter. And I won't go through everything in this, but what'll blow people's minds, and I just learned this for the first time like a couple months ago, but it's that easy to get into, is it has massive libraries of textures already in the software that you can go and shop for more in their store too. And a lot of them are free. And they have a lot more you can search for in their sort of library of assets, just all kinds of really cool.
Wow, look at those.
Let's take this like meshalized dirt and you can just drag it on your model.
Look at that.
And then let's adjust the scale so you can kind of see. And then yeah, it like instantly.
Oh, that's even interesting. Could be like an enemy or something.
Here's a cool one. Let's try the lizard.
Yeah.
Let's adjust the scaling a little bit. Like, look at that. You can make an alligator instantly just by throwing, if you're UV unwrapped.
That was quick. Yeah.
Awesome. And then you can do things like you can add a mask and say, I want to go in and I want to select some polygons that wouldn't have this texture on it. You can use polygon fill, right? So, and you can go in and you can basically add texture based on the mesh. So if I wanted to put my mask on white, which means I want to apply this texture to the body only and the fins, you can come into your UV map and click on each of the meshes.
Because they're separate, right? That makes sense.
Because they're separated. And look at that. Now I have like a...
Oh.
Isn't that awesome?
So quick.
It's like, well, the work's already done for you.
Well, all the work is already done for you so quick because you took the time to make it properly in the UV, unwrapping in Blender. So It's really important to also start doing the things in the right way, right? So it can save you time later on for this kind of things.
Another thing you can do is if you have your high-res mesh, you can bring it in with your low-res mesh and you can import it and essentially bake down a normal map from your high-res mesh, and it'll create a normal map for your low-res mesh in Substance Painter.
Oh, so the low-res can look a bit better, right? With the reflections and everything. Wow.
Which was really helpful for my shark because, let me go back to painting and I'll show you. It was really helpful for my shark because I modeled in some stitches on the side of his body. But when I was animating it, they would distort and stuff really awkwardly. So I ended up removing those and just using the high-res normal map of those stitches instead of geometry. And then they would bend and stretch a little more naturally. It was just easier to work with. So,
I see.
Yeah, using that high-res normal map is a massive help. And yeah, so this guy is just like felt, and some nylon for the stitches. Yeah. And then like a plastic material for the eyes, and like Substance does so much of the work for you. What else? Do you feel like I've given enough information? What else do you want to go over?
Hey, you gave gold.
So one thing you can do with some AI software is you can take an image and then put it into the AI, and then it'll create a 3D geometry for you. And you can use that. Yeah. You can use that directly, and a lot of artists and companies are doing that. Or you can just use it as a guide to then, have it next to you in your model to kind of move it around and see it. So let's say
like a placeholder almost here.
Yeah, let's say we like this shark and let's see how AI will do with it. So let's say you have a shark that we got from AI or a concept art that you made. I'll just drag in my shark sketch here and then generate. And Trippo is one of the better ones I've seen. I've played with a couple others that are decent, but sometimes it doesn't understand what to do with the image. But Trippo's usually pretty consistent in its shape. It shouldn't actually take too long, but
oh look, it's already appearing there.
Already starting to figure things out.
Man, it's already like so accurate. It's really like Wow.
You could throw this in game as a temp model just to prototype with.
Yeah.
Right? It's like incredible.
Yeah.
It's thinking. And you can see it's got kind of like a tilt to it, and that's fine. You could take that into ZBrush and just like, squish and rotate it.
Yeah. Kind of warp it in position. Yeah, that's because of the concept image, right? That was a bit tilted, but yeah, you can just modify that.
Right. So here is
There we go.
Image into AI, and this is already a wonderful guide, especially for artists starting out where you're still learning how to sculpt forms. This will get you in the proportion in the really quickly. It didn't know what to do with the backspin. It's kind of blocky, but
yeah, but as you see, guys, you can use AI to get like a initial placeholder for your actual model and just modify from there or use it as a base. And yeah, mostly as a guide. But as you can see, even the experts use AI. So those that, just hate AI for every single reason, like you have to introduce it into your workflow. Like if not, people is gonna be ahead from you, right? So I think it's important to adapt into this style over here. As you can see, we're using it, this is only an example, but it will be like as a guide for you to create the actual model. It's not like we're just throwing it into the engine, but you can do that too, honestly.
Trippo actually spits out a .glb file, which I'm not really familiar with. So sometimes you got to convert it to OBJ or FBX. This is another downside with AI is that the texture maps are like all over the place, a little bit messy. But for a temp model, you could throw it in and use it.
I see that.
Okay, so we've got our model. Let's go to ZBrush. Okay, so now here's that model. It's in ZBrush. You can see him next to our shark. And you could literally just model right over top of this. And that's what I've done for a couple tricky details on some characters.
Yeah.
It's a huge help.
Such a good technique.
You could easily just use this, right? I'd probably like flatten out the teeth and then put in separate geometry for those teeth. Flatten out the eyes and then put in separate spheres for the eyes, and then
I see with the fins and so on. Yeah, but even the AI did a great job. So
pretty awesome guy.
Yeah.
And there he is. Here's my AI shark model reference. You could use that directly, or you can modify it or use it as a guide. It's awesome. So yeah, this was my first sort of rig and animation of that shark, and here he is in Unreal Engine. Straight out.
So natural, yeah.
It's helpful. It's helpful too, just to throw it in engine, right? Just to see how the textures are reading. If you need to scale up your Substance Painter textures to tile a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, before continuing, right? It's like a check, seeing how it runs in game.
So here's where I just threw the temp model. It's not animated yet. I just put it right into Unreal just to check and see the colors and the textures and stuff.
I see. Yeah, that's a good tip to see if the materials, the colors are off or whatever, right?
Yeah. Then I could go back to the...
Man, it looks so cool. That game looks so cool. I mean, if I was me, I was, adding it in my wish list right now,
Thanks, man.
Wow, look at that animation.
Yeah, these were different. These were my first animations I ever did on my own character.
They look so good because they also have that, fluffiness. It's like so good. Like it matches that Muppet style,
Thanks. Yeah, those were really fun to work on.
Man, that's so fun.
You just see the water reflecting down. It's awesome.
Yeah, honestly amazing.
So there's my sharks. Oh, dude.
Oh, he's dying.
Well, I'm going.
Thanks, man.
So there's
Sharks are chasing you.
Let me put one shark. There he is coming after me.
Man, it's so good.
Little Muppet shark.
I mean, guys, you saw the whole process from concept to in-game, which is so cool. Wow, look at those jellyfish. Man.
Got me.
Oh, man. Some tense gameplay going on. Oh, there we go. I mean, that's it, guys. You had a whole workflow revealed from an expert in this industry. I mean, there's literally gold in this video. If you want to check out Stephan out, you can add his game into your wish list on Steam. I will link it in the description. It's amazing, has a really unique style with Muppets and so on. It's really unique. Honestly, I haven't seen something like that, in a long time. So, it's huge respect to him.
Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for having me on. That was really fun.
just getting to chat with you a little bit. It's and get to know you a little bit more. It's obvious why your channel's blowing up, because you're a great teacher and you're doing some really cool stuff. And it's funny, like, even though I've been in the industry for 20 years, I was a part of layoffs in October. And as I've set out to make my own project, I was following your tutorials, and they sort of gave me the confidence to write code. As an artist, it just blew my mind. So thank you for that. It's been a massive help. It's opened so many doors. People have chipped in to help on my project. This project has helped lead to my next job, working with a prominent indie developer, which I hope to share more soon. And just happy to help anyone trying to make characters or art for games. So thank you.
So remember to check out Stephan's game on Steam, add to your wish list. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I have over 700 tutorials, so I think you can learn something from there. And also make sure to join the Discord server where you can talk with over 10,000 members and game developers on Undoing 5. With that said, Stephan, it was a pleasure having you here. Bye bye.